I found the shredded NDA in the office bathroom trash, next to a crumpled tie, a half-eaten protein bar, and a used pregnancy test that wasn't mine. The NDA was mine. I recognized the formatting. It was the version I'd quietly revised 3 weeks ago to include a kill clause, a clause that didn't exist in the original documents. The clause, if triggered, would freeze all back-end access and notify the SEC of pending irregularities. Someone had printed it, read it, panicked, and shredded it badly. Half my initials were still legible in the margin. That's when I knew someone on the inside finally realized what I'd done. Let me rewind. 3 months ago, Devon called me essential. Not to my face, never to my face. He said it to a panel of investors during a Q&A. Alina handles ops, DevSec, and our compliance strategy. We couldn't scale without her, he said, sipping espresso like he invented it, eyes locked on a woman from Sequoia who nodded like she'd already signed the check. The same night, at the after-party, he slurred into his whiskey, "Sweetheart, you're lucky we keep you." I didn't slap him. I smiled because I knew something he didn't. I never signed the final cap table. Every line of code, every deployment pipeline, every miraculous load test ran through my fingers. They kept me because I was the only one who could keep the lie stitched tight. But lies unravel. Nena, our head of growth with a marketing degree and a wardrobe full of designer panic, accidentally forwarded me an internal Slack thread. Devon, Felix, our crypto fraud CFO, and Richard, the COO/VP influencer, were debating if they could ease me out post-IPO and hire someone less temperamental and more camera-friendly. Apparently, I looked tired on Zoom. Felix suggested I be moved to special advisor status and stripped of equity, quietly, of course. That's when I stopped being quiet. I didn't rage. I archived, I copied. I documented every message, every undeclared transfer, every bug I was forced to patch that covered up manipulation, every fake demo, every line in our AI model that was, let's say, heavily borrowed from a smaller, uncredited dev team in Bangalore. I didn't plan revenge. I built evidence. While they played PR golf with Goldman and schmoozed influencers to tweet about the future of ethical tech, I tested the red button. Not metaphorically. I mean the literal red button built into our staging environment, disguised as a decommission script. One press would do 3 things: wipe the production servers, notify our lawyer of IP theft via secure email, and trigger a time-stamped leak to the press folder I'd hidden inside our Google Drive, labeled Team Retreat Photos. But that was before the NDA showed up in the trash. Someone was digging. Someone was nervous. I didn't know who yet, but I knew what came next. And it wasn't the IPO. The next morning, someone reset my access badge. I stood outside the glass doors of our sleek office, kind with kombucha taps and mood lighting that cost more than my annual salary, waving a dead credential at a motionless sensor. My reflection blinked back at me, tired but amused. So it had begun. I didn't call HR. I didn't email IT. I walked to the nearest cafe, ordered a black coffee, and opened my laptop. The VPN was still live. Amateurs. I tunneled in and checked the logs. Access to Corvault root was attempted 4 times between 1 and 1:42 a.m., failed each time. They were looking for the keys. My keys, the ones I generated after Felix accidentally published the last audit draft with my name replaced by his, the ones I stored outside AWS in a cold repo hosted on a cloudless server farm, rented under an LLC no one at the company had ever heard of because I made it up the same night Devon told me I wasn't investor-facing material. They were hunting shadows. Good, because the real vault wasn't digital. It was me. I sipped my coffee and messaged our corporate counsel, Lily, one of the few decent humans in the building. Quick check-in. Noticed my badge isn't working. Legal reason I should know about? She replied in 5 minutes, which told me everything, just learned myself. Internal restructuring still listed as CTO, but Devon signed a facility access hold pending security verification. I can call you in 10. I declined. Instead, I opened the folder named Decom Night. Inside were timelines, diagrams, incident simulations, and versions of a PowerPoint Devon once presented as his own. This was the actual engine underneath our IPO, the product we sold to investors as our proprietary tech stack. Except it wasn't. It was a forked version of a government open-source initiative I'd personally rebuilt, stripped of credit, and repackaged into a subscription model. In other words, if the SEC looked too closely, the IPO would combust before breakfast. And guess whose name was still attached to the original Git history? Mine. I opened a blank document and typed a message to the one person more dangerous than Felix with a checkbook. Devon's ex-wife, Natalie, who still owned 12% of the company and hated him more than I did. Subject, curious about the valuation. Let's talk. I sent it with an attachment, a time-stamped screenshot of Felix editing the Mao dashboard numbers for our last investor call. The cursor paused next to a cell labeled Organic Users, hesitated, then changed 27,843 to 154,990. I closed my laptop and waited. By 4 p.m., Natalie replied, dinner. Not a question, a command. I showed up wearing the same blazer Devon once called too masculine for public pitches. Natalie wore war paint. She didn't order food, just wine. Tell me everything, she said, leaning in, glass trembling in her hand. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the scent of blood in the water. I smiled because I knew exactly where to cut. We met at a dimly lit place in the Mission District, the kind of restaurant that makes you feel like a villain just for sitting down. Candlelight flickered off raw concrete. The waiter had a neck tattoo of a QR code. Natalie didn't blink as he poured the wine. She was staring straight through me, like I was both the gun and the bullet. Talk, she said, swirling Cabernet like it was gasoline. Start with what you know. I didn't hold back. I laid it out in slices, how Devon rerouted grant money into a consulting firm registered to his college roommate, how Felix ran 2 versions of every ledger, one for us and one for VCs, how our flagship AI model was mostly smoke and mirrors, reinforcement learning hype duct taped to a glorified keyword indexer. She didn't react, not yet. Then I told her about the clause, the one hidden in the latest governance update, buried deep in legalese under a section no one had bothered to read before signing. It gave me one-time authority to halt the IPO in the event of a material ethical breach threatening financial misrepresentation. Natalie's lips twitched, almost a smile. I helped write that clause, she said. Devon thought it was to protect him from you. I nearly laughed, but then she pulled a phone from her purse and slid it across the table. Open the gallery. I did. Photo after photo, Devon at a resort in Curacao on dates that overlapped with his client conferences, Richard in a Tesla showroom taking selfies with 2 tablets showing confidential user heat maps, Devon, shirtless at some influencer party, holding up a whiteboard with the words delete logs, no backups, while a bikini-clad intern giggled beside him. Natalie took a long sip. They're all sloppy. I've got receipts, but you have the weapon. I nodded slowly. I'm guessing you want to fire it. She leaned in, the flame between us making her diamond earrings flicker like surveillance cameras. No, she said. We fire it together. That word we hit differently. I'd worked 6 years building a kingdom where I wasn't even listed in the royal records. Now, the queen exiled from court wanted me as her co-conspirator, but I wasn't done handing out surprises. There's more, I said, pulling out a flash drive. On this is the full audit trail, every commit, every API call, every deleted Slack message recovered and time-stamped, including the ones where Devon discussed laundering funds through a wellness startup registered in his dog's name. Natalie let out a sound that was somewhere between a cough and a laugh. What's the dog's name? Daisy. She shook her head like the word itself was a crime. Jesus Christ. Then she went still, her eyes locked on something behind me. I turned slowly. Devon was standing across the restaurant, flanked by 2 execs I didn't recognize, probably from the IPO advisory team. He hadn't seen us yet. Natalie raised her glass to me, eyes gleaming. Let him come over. I didn't breathe because the look in her eyes wasn't just strategy anymore. It was execution. Devon strutted toward our table like a man who thought he was invincible. That overconfident hedge fund gait, half swagger, half delusion. He didn't see the fire, only the match. Nat, he smirked, hands in his pockets. Didn't expect to see you out tonight. And Alina, wow, I thought they revoked your access pass. Natalie didn't blink. She sipped her wine like it cost more than his car and set the glass down with a quiet clink. Funny, she said. I was thinking the same about your moral compass. Devon's smile faltered, just a crack, but it was enough. I tilted my head, studying him the way a surgeon studies scar tissue. He hadn't changed. Same sharkskin suit, same 2 white teeth. But his eyes were darting now, between us, between the flash drive on the table and the screen of Natalie's phone that hadn't gone dark. You look tense, I said finally. Long week? He gave me that greasy half-laugh. Just a lot going on, big moves. You know how it is when you're running a company. Oh, I wouldn't know, I said. Last I checked, I only built it. Natalie reached across and tapped the flash drive with a single manicured nail. The sound was deliberate. This yours, Devon? You look nervous, like maybe someone's holding a detonator and you're standing on a pressure plate. His face twitched, barely, but we caught it. I'm not sure what you think you're doing here, he said. Oh, we're not thinking, Natalie cut in. We're preparing. Devon glanced over his shoulder, then leaned down, voice dropping to a hiss. Whatever she told you, it's not what it looks like. Alina's always been a little careful. I leaned forward. The next word out of your mouth better not be hysterical, emotional, or difficult, or I swear to God, I'll upload the demo logs from that Tokyo pitch where you froze mid-sentence and I had to puppeteer your keynote via Slack while you pretended it was all part of the show. His jaw clenched. Natalie's voice was cool and weaponized. Listen to me, Devon. You're going to walk back to your little table, smile for your advisors, and pretend everything is fine. Tomorrow morning you're going to cancel the IPO filing quietly, gracefully, because if you don't... She turned her phone toward him and played the clip. Felix on speakerphone, laughing. Bro, if we can inflate those Mao numbers by just 1 million, I can close the SoftBank round with my eyes closed. The blood drained from Devon's face so fast I thought he might faint. Where the hell did you get that? He breathed. My inbox, I said. Turns out nobody ever removed me from the back end of our internal messaging servers. I archived everything. Devon's fists clenched. This is extortion. No, I said, standing slowly. This is preservation. Natalie stood too, taller than him, fiercer. You kept calling her lucky, Devon, but it wasn't luck that built your empire. It was labor, invisible, sleepless, thankless labor. And now she's not invisible anymore. We left him standing there, still as glass, silent. But in his eyes, a storm was gathering. I knew he wasn't going to back down. He was going to retaliate. And that was exactly what I wanted. The email hit my inbox at 3:12 a.m. Subject line, urgent cease and desist, no greeting, no signature, just a badly PD-fed threat accusing me of unauthorized access and IP theft. The sentences were so sloppily worded, it might have been typed mid-chard. Your attempt to sabotage a federally compliant IPO will result in legal and financial repercussions. Repercussions? I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. Then I forwarded it to Natalie. Her reply was instantaneous. Good. Let him panic. I've seen him bluff before. He folds with pressure. But I wasn't bluffing. I was tightening the rope. By noon, Devon had filed a formal complaint with HR, claiming I created a toxic environment, weaponized code access, and undermined company morale. The same HR that once ghosted me for 2 weeks after I reported Felix for demanding I smile more during investor walkthroughs. They scheduled a mediation Zoom for the next morning. I accepted. Then I opened the real repo, the one only I could access. It was time to show Devon just how deep my hooks went. I checked the triggers, each one a line of defense I'd quietly embedded into the system over the last year, encrypted backups set to detonate if moved without the right signature, shadow scripts designed to stall deploys if the wrong fingerprints showed up in the CI/CD pipeline, and a final override that rerouted traffic through a dead link if more than 60% of server calls originated outside North America. The crown jewel was Project Lazarus, an entirely separate build, clean, compliant, real, built by me, owned by me. While they spent a year fundraising off vaporware, I spent a year building the thing they promised investors but never delivered. And I had proof, Git commits, prototype videos, API responses, all time-stamped and signed. Natalie had already lined up a whisper campaign. If the IPO tanked, and it would, there'd be a new Phoenix product ready to launch under a different name, with a new founding team, one without Devon, Felix, or that walking stock photo of a COO. All that remained was the fuse. But then something unexpected happened. Nena called. I stared at my screen, half thinking it was a prank. She had never once contacted me directly in 6 years. I picked up. Alina, she said, voice shaky, I think I made a mistake. Silence. I forwarded some of your emails to Felix. I thought he said you were spiraling, and I didn't want to get caught in the middle. She stopped. I waited. Then I saw the documents, the shell companies, the dummy patents. He's using my name on one of them, Alina. My name. Now I'm on a provisional filing for a neural diagnostics patent that I didn't write. My blood ran cold. You're in the paper trail, I said. She whispered, they're going to pin it on me if this blows up, aren't they? I didn't answer because, yes, they were. Suddenly, the game wasn't 2 players anymore. There were casualties. Nena, I said carefully, Do you still have access to Felix's shared drive? A pause. Yes. Why? Because I'm about to burn this thing down, I said. You're either inside the bunker when the fire hits, or you're helping me light the match. She was silent for 3 full seconds. Then what do you need? I smiled, fingers already flying across the keyboard. Everything. Nena delivered hard. By midnight, my inbox was filled with files, dozens of them screenshots of Slack threads, voice memos from Felix's phone backups. He used WhatsApp for sensitive stuff, like a true criminal with a LinkedIn account, PowerPoints with fake P and L charts, a draft of Devon's IPO letter from the founder that he'd obviously plagiarized from a Medium article. He hadn't even removed the original author's name from the document metadata. But the file that made my stomach drop was named Plan B Post Alina. It was a termination packet with my name on it, already dated, including talking points for the press, a fake resignation email to focus on health, a severance offer so insulting I laughed, $8,000, and an NDA that might as well have been dipped in gasoline. Worst of all, they'd already looped in their PR team for a launch press release celebrating a new era of growth and alignment, set to go live right after the IPO bell. So that was it. The moment they rang that bell, I'd be publicly erased. I stood in my apartment at 2:16 a.m., still in my blazer from dinner, watching code scroll on my second monitor. I realized they weren't just trying to silence me. They were planning to sanitize me, rewrite the history, bleach the blood, toss a bouquet on my digital grave, and tell the world I went quietly. They didn't just want my silence, they wanted my obedience. I unplugged my backup drive and slid it into a shipping envelope, addressed to Lily, the corporate counsel I still half trusted, with a single sticky note, "If I disappear, give this to the Journal." Then I booted into the Lazarus environment, activated Project Phoenix, and scheduled the shutdown script. Time delay 9:29 a.m., 1 minute before the IPO livestream began. Now, here's where it gets weird. At 8:03 a.m., I got a call from an unlisted number. It wasn't Natalie, it wasn't Nena, it was Devon's mother. I stared at the caller ID in disbelief. I had only met her once, years ago, when she brought macarons to the office like some misplaced Stepford diplomat, but her voice now was razor sharp. "Alina," she said, calm as an executioner, "I don't know what Devon did, but I know you, and I know you didn't work this hard just to be erased." I didn't speak. "Whatever's about to happen," she said, "make it count." Then she hung up. No explanation, no sides, just permission. At 9:28 a.m., my screen lit up with the company's live IPO countdown. Devon was in a tailored suit, all teeth and lies, with Felix at his shoulder, nodding like a bobblehead on cocaine. Nena was off camera, probably locked in a green room. Natalie was nowhere to be seen. I opened the kill terminal, hand on the key, heart pounding. On screen, Devon raised the ceremonial bell mallet. "Thank you to our incredible team, especially those who helped us build this dream." I pressed enter. The screen flickered. The live stream froze, then went black. 10 seconds of silence. Then came the screams. The screen stayed black, then flashed white, then showed my face. I hadn't planned that part. Natalie had. She'd quietly rerouted the live stream through a fail-safe node she'd bought access to through a shady back channel. I had sent her the files, but she made the message. She'd said it was just in case. I didn't ask questions. I was too tired. But now, there I was, projected live to investors, journalists, Twitch streamers, even Bloomberg, reading a message in a voice I barely recognized as my own. "This IPO is built on falsified metrics, stolen code, and weaponized silence." The board knew. The founders knew. I built this platform, and I am no longer afraid. 10 seconds in, Felix sprinted off screen like he'd been shot. Devon froze, lips half open, caught mid-spin of some glittering lie. I watched from my apartment as the livestream chat exploded. "Is this real? Holy shit. She just exposed everything. Finks is going to tank. Why is the founder running?" The screen behind Devon, where our company logo had been, now showed a split screen, financial forgeries on the left, Slack messages on the right, side by side, time-stamped, labeled undeniable. Natalie had done this like a surgeon with a scalpel, and I'd given her the blades. Devon stumbled back toward the mic, like he might still recover, like he could claw his way out. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is clearly a cyber attack. We're looking into it. But then Nina stepped into frame, uninvited. She looked like a ghost, pale, hollow-eyed, but strong. "This isn't a cyber attack," she said into the mic. "It's the truth, and you knew." Gasps rippled through the room. One of the VC reps knocked over his chair. A cameraman actually laughed. Devon's face crumpled like cheap foil. "You're making a mistake," he hissed at her, off mic. But it didn't matter because it was over. Natalie's final blow came via a press release dropped at exactly 9:31 a.m., time to hit inboxes while the live stream played. The headline, "Whistleblower Discloses IPO Fraud, SEC Complaint Filed, Alternate Platform Launching Q3." Underneath, a founder list that didn't include Devon, Felix, or Richard, just me, Nenna, and Natalie. By 9:42, Phoenix's IPO filing was pulled from the exchange, trading halted. By 10:15, Felix's LinkedIn page was deleted. By 11:02, a photo circulated of Devon storming out of NASDAQ in a full red-faced meltdown, suit jacket flapping like a dying crow. Middle finger raised at someone, shouting, "Where's Alina now?" And I was home, eating cold pad thai in my pajamas, watching it all burn from the comfort of a beanbag chair I'd bought during lockdown with a 15% off coupon and a dream of quitting quietly. But this was better. The subpoenas went out by Thursday. Felix lawyered up before noon, but his crypto holdings were already frozen. Richard vanished from social media entirely. Rumor had it he booked a one-way ticket to Bali under the name Brad. Devon tried to play martyr on CNBC, claiming disgruntled staff and deepfakes, but the anchor cut him off to read an official SEC statement confirming a full investigation into securities fraud, insider manipulation, and IP theft. I didn't celebrate. I waited because I knew Devon. He wouldn't stop until he'd scorched every inch of earth between us, and I wasn't done with him either. 3 days later, I received a bouquet of white tulips with no card. His favorite apology flower, classic narcissist behavior. Crisis flowers, like a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. I left them to rot on my balcony. Instead, I focused on the new build. Phoenix launched 2 weeks later. We didn't announce it with fireworks, no staged TED Talk, no influencer endorsements, just a simple tweet, a platform built on truth by the women they erased. It went viral in 5 hours. We hit 300,000 organic users by day 3. An investor who'd backed Devon cold-called me and said, "I should have known. You were the only one who didn't try to sell me on vibes." I replied, "That's because I was busy building the product." Nenna became our head of compliance. Turns out, fear sharpens instinct. She built the most aggressive internal audit framework the Valley had ever seen. Natalie ran PR like a war campaign, graceful in public, ruthless in back channels. I don't know what she whispered to which reporters, but within a month, Devon's name was unofficially synonymous with fraud in a vest. And me? I finally rewrote my bio, engineer, founder, not your sweetheart. Sometimes I still get emails from junior devs asking if the story is true, if I really took down an entire IPO with a terminal command. I don't answer. But I do reply to one kind of message, the ones that say, "They told me I was lucky they hired me. You reminded me I'm not." To those, I just send back 2 words, press delete. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.